So last year we were introduced to a new running brand out of Hong Kong, Mount to Coast, and I tested out their R1, and this shoe was designed to be a road racer over ultra distance, and I also tested out its sort of training equivalent, the S1. I really enjoyed the fit, feel and performance of both shoes, and I think the brand did a great job considering these were their first two running shoes that they brought to market. At the time, I reached out to the brand and asked if they'd be producing a trail running shoe in the future, and they said, watch this space. So fast forwarding almost a year, and here we are, we've got their new T1, their first ever trail running shoe with some very interesting features. So let's dive into the video and tell you all about them. Welcome back folks, and welcome back to an exciting first impressions video. Thanks for tuning in again, it's really appreciated. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run for Adventure. So definitely stay tuned because later on in the video I'm going to be lacing these up for the first time. I'm going to be grabbing the cameras, hitting the trails and bringing you guys along on the first run. But before we do that, let's give you a few facts and figures about the T1, and I've got to say it, so nice to have a short and simple name for a running shoe. You know, I'm not going to pronounce it wrong and I'm definitely not going to forget it this time round, and it's just nice to see Mount to Coast using those names. So R1, S1, T1. Keeping it nice and simple. Maybe some of the other running brands should take note, but yeah, I'm going to give you a few facts and figures and then I'm going to break down this new construction in a bit more detail. So firstly, the shoes are available to pre-order on the Mount to Coast website for £170 here in the UK. So I was lucky enough to get sent an early pair by the brand for testing here at the channel. So a big shout out to Mount to Coast, it's really appreciated. Weight wise, my pair in a UK 9.5 comes in a pretty decent 282 grams, and I think that's a reasonable weight for a deeply cushioned trail running shoe. As far as midsole stack heights go, we've got 36mm at the heel, 32mm under the forefoot, meaning that the T1s have a 4mm heel offset. Just like Mount to Coast R1s, the T1 comes with some very interesting features when we break down this upper construction in a bit more detail. So firstly, this upper has been crafted out of a durable high performance woven fabric, and it's been reinforced with aramid fabrics that are apparently 5 times stronger than steel. So very similar to the matrix uppers that we're seeing a lot of the running brands use on their trail running shoes. Mount to Coast have also worked in an anti-siphon gusseted tongue that's going to repel water, so ensuring that we've got a nice lightweight, breathable and fast drying upper design. Again, very similar to the R1 road shoe, the T1 comes with Mount to Coast clever dual lacing system. So you don't get any sort of standard running shoe laces in the T1. We've got this dual cord system. So what you have is the cords, and you've got these little small plastic mechanisms that you slide down to lock into place. And what this gives you is a lot of personalization when it comes down to fit, depending on your foot shape. So you can actually adjust the midfoot and forefoot lockdown independently and get the shoes laced up just how you want them. And I was a big fan of this dual lacing system when I tested out the R1, and I'm sure it's going to work just as well in these. And then finishing up, when it comes to upper construction, we've got a good level of padding and structure around the ankle collar and in the heel cup. We got some nice high-vis detailing for safer nighttime running, and I'm always happy to see a pair of trail running shoes with a good deal of reinforcement in the toe box just for a bit of upfront trail protection. And I actually tried the shoes on indoors just to check the sizing. Seems to fit my foot shape really well and it feels nice and comfy. Moving down to the midsole, and Mount to Coast have gone with their PIBA hybrid setup, and that's been turbocharged through supercritical foaming, making it 50% the weight of a sort of standard EVA while offering higher levels of energy return. And actually the light cell midsole was another standout feature of the R1 road shoe for me. Really did feel nice and bouncy while I was running, like I was getting good levels of energy return. So I actually think that this should cross over to the trail environment well. Like I said, nice and bouncy, but it's not a super soft foam, so should feel nice and stable underfoot when I'm running on more uneven ground. And then flipping them over to reveal the outsole, and yep, another running brand that's chosen to use Vibram Mega Grip rubber on the outsole of their trail running shoe. But we've actually got the light base rubber this time round, so still offers all those great sticky properties of a standard Mega Grip, but this is 30% lighter, so helping to reduce the overall weight of the shoe. And Mount to Coast have gone with a 4mm traction lug pattern that incorporates these tiny little micro lugs that apparently up the level of traction by 25%. Now, I'm not sure it's going to make that much difference, but it does look like a good lug pattern for a trail running shoe that's been designed to run on a big mix of different terrains. And there you have it, the lowdown on the latest addition to the ever-growing Mount to Coast running shoe lineup. But now we've reached the part of the video that I've been really waiting for, because I've been super excited to test out the T1s for some time. So without further ado, I'm going to get things sorted, I'm going to grab the cameras, and we are going to get running. So we'll see you guys out on the beautiful trails of Cornwall. Okay, so 2 miles done. We're just about to head out on the Towers, and this is actually my first run back after running Farmageddon a couple of weekends ago. So I've had a good sort of 8-9 days off, because running that repetitive loop for 12 hours did kind of give my body a hammering, and the legs felt pretty sore afterwards. So 9 days off, but it's been active recovery. So a good long walk every day with Liga. I've been doing lots of foam rolling, massage gun. I've had the myo pumps on pretty much every day, flushing all those toxins out. And I've been doing a lot of mobility work. So I think the recovery's really worked, and all that body sort of maintenance stuff, the legs are actually feeling really good. I always think it's super important after running any ultra, that recovery phase. You know, it's really easy just to sit down on the sofa, not run, and your body just gets tighter and tighter. I would always recommend booking in a sports massage before the race. Unfortunately, my massage therapist has moved away, so she's not here at the moment, or else I would have definitely had a massage. But all the other stuff really helps. As far as the shoe goes, the first thing I've got to mention is the midsole setup on the T1 does feel very different to the road shoes that I've already tested from Mount to Coast. When I tried them on indoors for the first time, felt like the sort of shape at the arch was quite dominant, you know, and I wasn't sure about it. Very different feeling compared to the road shoes. But now I'm actually out here running, what it does is it puts a nice sort of rockered motion in that midsole. So it does make the shoe feel nice and efficient. And a lot of the miles as we made our way to the towns were uphill, and the shoe really did perform well running uphill. So like I said, the midsole feels different, but feels really nice when you get running. So 2 miles down, we're going to try and get in our normal 7 to 8 miles that we do on a first run. I think that's really good distance when you're taking a running shoe out for the first time. So let's crack on, let's get this mileage done and see how the T1 performs. So, got to be honest, still really impressed with how my legs are feeling. So, we have just ticked over 4 miles, and whenever you go into these long distance races, you always hope for the best, and you hope that your body's going to handle it, and you know, you never know where you're going to pick up some niggles or even worse, an injury. And by the end of the 12 hours, both my hips were quite tight, and I had a bit of left foot pain, and I really didn't know how it was going to go, but I just can't believe how good it is. So it just shows that body maintenance, recovery, looking after our bodies is super important when it comes to running, and you can't do enough of it. The more the better, and especially as we get older. So it really has paid off, and that's a good thing, because we have got lots of exciting stuff coming up on the channel that we definitely need to be fit and healthy for.
Okay, so we've just ticked over 7 miles and we are heading for home, and it has been a brilliant run this evening for many reasons. So firstly, the legs feel strong, loose, but more importantly, niggle free. It's been a glorious evening. The sun is shining. It looks amazing out here on the towns, and it's been perfect running conditions. And number 3, the T1 has run really well for its first outing. As far as fit goes, I would say just like all the other Mount to Coast shoes that I've tested on the channel, it's true to size. So this UK 9.5 is giving me just the right length in the toe box, and that dual cord lace system is working well. So it's allowing me to get a real secure lockdown around my midfoot, but I've actually left the forefoot quite loose and no movement in the shoe, no slipping or sliding, no lifting in the heel. So again, a nice lockdown around my midfoot. So like I said back there, it's been a really positive first run, but let's get back to the studio and let's wrap this video up with a quick conclusion.
Well, a super successful first run back, and I managed 7.96 miles, so just under 8 miles in the new T1s from Mount to Coast for the first time. If you're wondering, there will be a full race day video coming soon to the channel from Farmageddon, so you can watch my fatiguing process over those 12 hours of running. As far as the shoes go, I think Mount to Coast have done a really good job on their first ever trail running shoe. This high performance woven upper fabric performed well out there on the trails. It felt nice and light and airy and breathable, and in fact that fabric is so thin you could see my bright pink stance socks through the upper. I was a little bit concerned before the run about this thin gusseted tongue design, but it was actually nice and comfortable out there, and I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that we've got that cord lace system and not your sort of standard running shoe laces. So when I pulled that cord down nice and tight, I think it more evenly distributed that pressure across the top of my foot. And actually, speaking of the Tune Fit dual cord lace system, it seemed to do exactly what it said on the tin. So it allowed me to get a nice personalised fit on my foot shape, and I pulled that midfoot lace system down nice and tight, giving me that secure midfoot hold. But the lower lace system I had pretty loose, and that allowed me to run with that nice sort of roomy toe box feel. The only thing I would say is the dual lace system can be a little bit fiddly, so you might have to play around with it for a bit of time just to get it set up right for your foot shape. However, I am glad to see that Mount to Coast have worked in a small tongue pocket for that top lace system, so once you've cinched it down nice and tight, you can tuck that lace away just to get it out of the way so it doesn't cause you any problems. However, you don't get one for the bottom lace system, so once I pulled that cord down tight, I had to tuck it in behind the other laces so that it didn't flap around and get annoying. And I've got to be honest, I've never been a big fan of doing this. Not that it caused me any issues, but I would definitely rather have a sort of specific lace pocket. But I think for me, the standout feature has to be this light cell PEBA hybrid midsole on the T1. And like I thought at home, it did cross over to that trail environment really well. So seemed to offer me that nice balance between cushioning, underfoot protection, energy return and stability. And that's quite a hard thing to pull off in a midsole on a trail running shoe. And actually, before we got to the trails, we had some road to run on, and the T1 ran really well straight out of the box. So nice and bouncy underfoot, also good fun to run on, and like I said, out on the run we've got that sort of contour and shape to the instep of the shoe, and it really did make the T1 feel nice and efficient, and I think it would run well over distance. I think I actually enjoyed this midsole setup more than the midsole on the R1 road shoes, and definitely feels like you've got a bit more of an aggressive rocker, and it felt like it was giving me a bit more forward momentum, especially when I was running up the hills. And there was a couple of times on today's run when I picked up some more uneven sort of rocky stony trails, and because this foam isn't super soft, I felt nice and planted and stable underfoot. Obviously it wasn't a super technical run today, but I don't think I'd have any issues running the T1 on more sort of challenging technical terrain. I'm looking forward to taking them out for a longer run because I think the T1 felt like it could handle distance really well. What with this nice lightweight breathable upper, this comfortable and efficient feeling midsole, and then obviously with them being clad in this 4mm lugged Vibram Mega Grip light base rubber outsole, which should be able to handle most terrains and underfoot conditions. I think with it only being a 4mm lug, they would struggle for traction in really muddy, boggy conditions, but on everything else, I think they'll perform well. I personally think at £170 here in the UK, it is quite an expensive trail option, and you know, that puts it into the same price bracket as the brilliant Prodigio Pro from La Sportiva, and I'm not sure these performed as well as that La Sportiva shoe, but obviously this was just my first run and I definitely need to give the shoes a bit more time and a few more miles to prove themselves. But you know, it was an enjoyable run in the first ever Mount to Coast trail running shoe, and I'm looking forward to lacing them up again. And on that note, it brings today's first impressions video to an end. Really hope you enjoyed it, really hope you found it helpful. It would be interesting to hear from you guys, you know, what do you think about the £170 price tag on the new Mount to Coast T1? Do you think it's worth it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget, if you have enjoyed the video, to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. Only takes a second to do, but best of all, it is completely free, but it is a big help to the channel. But until next time guys, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, we'll be back soon, and as always, stay safe and keep on running. It seemed to offer me that nice balance between cushioning, underfoot protection,